The alien queen's voice shook the hall. Who fixed this? Only a human dared to answer. Its towers gleamed with silver light, stretching high above the city of Celerin Prime, and its walls shimmered with energy fields that could protect it from the strongest storms or the fiercest attacks. Inside, the hall was vast, filled with seats for thousands of delegates from countless worlds. Holographic screens floated in the air, displaying the faces and symbols of every species in attendance. Every council meeting was a show of power, intelligence, and diplomacy. On this particular day, the hall seemed ordinary at first. Delegates whispered among themselves, adjusting robes, communicating in their own languages. Some glanced nervously at the alien queen, whose presence dominated the room. She was massive, far taller than any human or most aliens, with iridescent skin that shifted colors like liquid metal. Her eyes glowed faintly, a soft light that betrayed her awareness of everything in the hall at once. Then it happened. The alien queen opened her mouth, and her voice echoed across the room, but not in the usual calm, melodic tone. Instead, it boomed, shaking the walls, rattling the seats, and vibrating the energy fields. The voice was impossibly loud, not just sound but a force that made people lean forward, clutching the edges of their chairs. Even the holographic screens flickered as if frightened by the sheer power behind the words. "This is unacceptable," the queen's voice roared, each word like a hammer against the hall's walls. "Who allowed this mistake? Who failed to correct it?" Gasps filled the room. Alien delegates turned to each other, eyes wide in shock. None of them dared approach the central control hub, a massive console of blinking lights, holographic panels, and wires that twisted like living vines. The hub was meant to maintain order in the hall, adjusting sound levels, translating languages instantly, and keeping the queen's voice from becoming overpowering. Today, however, it had failed. The room trembled with the sound of her complaint, and no one could fix it. Among the chaos, one human stood quietly near the back. His name was Kai, a young engineer who had only recently been promoted to the Confederation's technical corps. He was small compared to most of the delegates, dressed in a simple uniform that identified him as a maintenance officer, not a powerful diplomat. But his eyes were calm, sharp, and focused. Where others panicked, Kai saw a challenge, a problem waiting for a solution. The queen's voice continued to echo, each syllable making the walls vibrate more violently. Aliens squealed, chairs tipped, and some of the younger species even ducked under the tables. Counselors scrambled to communicate through holograms, sending urgent messages to the hall's administrators, but the network was confused. Commands overlapped, signals collided, and nothing worked. Kai, however, stepped forward. He walked through the trembling hall with confidence, weaving between terrified delegates. The closer he got to the central hub, the stronger the vibrations became, but he didn't hesitate. Humans had a reputation in the Confederation for daring, for thinking differently when others froze in fear. This was one of those moments. He reached the hub and examined it quickly. The screens were chaotic, a jumble of colors and symbols flashing too fast for most to read. Wires sparked faintly, and energy fields around the hub flickered with uneven pulses. Most species would have called for backup, shouted for permission, or waited for someone more important to act. But Kai knelt and touched the controls. He didn't just see lights and numbers. He felt patterns, rhythm, and energy flows. Humans had a strange way of sensing problems intuitively, and he could tell exactly where the disruption was happening. "Stay back," he said firmly, not to scare anyone but to focus the space around him. "I can fix this." The alien queen stopped for a moment, her glowing eyes narrowing. She was aware of him, this small, unassuming human daring to touch the central hub. The other delegates gasped. Never before had a human approached, while the queen's voice roared through the hall. Some whispered that he would be vaporized by the energy surge, but Kai ignored them. He began adjusting the conduits, slowly redirecting the energy flows. Sparks danced around his fingers, but he moved carefully, deliberately, without fear. His hands worked like a skilled musician, touching the right panels in the right sequence. Every alien watching held their breath. The hub flickered violently, the queen's voice rising and falling in unpredictable bursts, yet Kai stayed calm. A small delegation of alien engineers finally gathered courage to assist him, but Kai barely looked at them. He needed their hands for strength, not advice. Humans were not trained like these species to wait for perfect instructions. They acted, improvised, and trusted their judgment. Minutes passed like hours. The sound of the Queen's voice began to change. It no longer shook the walls violently. The vibrations became manageable. The lights stopped flickering so intensely, and the energy field stabilized. The delegates looked around in astonishment. They had expected the hall to collapse under the Queen's presence, yet the small human was bending the system back to order. Kai adjusted one final conduit, routing the energy flow precisely where it needed to go. The hub's lights settled into a soft, steady glow. The Queen's voice softened as if the hall itself had learned to carry it properly. For a moment, the hall was silent. The only sound was the hum of the stabilized systems, a gentle vibration underfoot. Every delegate stared at Kai, not quite believing that a human had done what they could not. The alien Queen's eyes fixed on him. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice now calm but still carrying authority. "And why did you dare touch the hub when none of the others could?" Kai straightened, wiping his hands on his uniform. He felt no fear, only determination. "I am Kai, a human engineer," he said clearly. "I did what needed to be done. The hall's systems were amplifying your voice, making it stronger than intended. I corrected the flow. No one else acted because they were afraid. I did not." A murmur spread through the hall. Humans had long been underestimated. They were considered clever but fragile, unpredictable, and emotional. No species had expected a human to solve a crisis of this magnitude, and yet here he stood, calm, competent, and courageous. The alien Queen studied him for a long moment. Then she inclined her massive head slightly, a gesture almost like approval. "Only a human dared to answer," she said softly. The delegates froze. To hear such words from the Queen was extraordinary. It was as if she had acknowledged not just Kai, but humanity itself. Kai stepped back, allowing the alien engineers to tidy up the hub. The hall was returning to normal, the tremors fading, and the Queen's voice now resonated correctly, powerful yet controlled. Delegates began whispering excitedly, some even applauding quietly. The young human had earned a rare kind of respect in the most alien environment imaginable. As the council resumed, Kai watched the Queen address the assembly. Her voice was clear and strong, yet it no longer caused fear or panic. He realized that this day, simple and routine as it might have seemed to an outsider, would be remembered. Humans, small and often overlooked, had shown that courage, logic, and intuition could solve problems no one else dared to face. For Kai, it was not a moment of pride, it was a reminder. Being human meant daring to step forward when others hesitated, and in the vastness of the universe, that daring could change everything. Even as he returned to his place, he could feel the eyes of the council on him, the whispers of admiration growing. And deep down, he knew that the events of this day were only the beginning. Humans would be tested again in ways the Confederation could not yet imagine. But for now, one small human had changed the fate of a hall that even the most powerful beings feared. The tremor had ended, but the ripple of respect had just begun. The hum of the council hall had finally settled, and the delegates slowly regained their composure. Holographic screens stabilized, energy conduits returned to their soft glow, and the shaking of the massive chamber was now a memory. Yet, despite the apparent calm, an electric tension remained in the air. The alien Queen, towering and magnificent, stood at the center, observing the room with a gaze that could pierce steel. Her glowing eyes lingered on Kai, the young human engineer who had dared to act when no one else would. Kai remained near the central hub, brushing the faint sparks off his uniform. He could feel the weight of every gaze in the room. Aliens of every shape and size, from six-limbed diplomats to winged scholars, watched him with curiosity, skepticism, and in some cases, awe. Humans were a new species in the Galactic Confederation, known for their unpredictability and boldness. But this was the first time one had acted so decisively under pressure in front of so many powerful beings. The council resumed their session. Alien delegates whispered urgently, speaking in their own languages, translated by the hall systems. Most discussions focused on the incident, how the Queen's voice had nearly caused disaster, and how, surprisingly, a human had prevented it. Many leaders were hesitant to openly praise a human in front of the Queen, worried it might seem disrespectful. Yet no one could deny the truth. Kai had fixed what none of them dared touch. One of the older delegates, a tall, silver-scaled reptilian named Vorthax, leaned toward his neighbor. "It is remarkable," he hissed, his voice low. A human solved what even the most skilled engineers could not. How is this possible? His neighbor, a floating, semi-transparent being called Lyria, shook her glowing appendages. I do not know, but it is a sign. Humans. They may be underestimated, but perhaps they are more capable than we thought. Meanwhile, Kai studied the holographic readings still floating above the hub. Even though the hall had stabilized, he noticed subtle fluctuations in the energy conduits. The Queen's voice had been the trigger, but it had exposed weaknesses in the hall system that could cause problems in the future. He made a mental note to check the central network more thoroughly after the council ended. Humans were not only courageous, they were cautious, careful, and persistent. The alien queen raised a massive hand, signaling for silence. "Let us proceed," she said, her voice steady now but still resonant with authority. "The issue is under control. But I will not tolerate failure. Let all present remember that even the smallest mistake can threaten our unity." Her words were firm, yet there was a subtle acknowledgement for Kai. The human had not only fixed the problem, but he had done it without fear, without hesitation. The Queen's advisors glanced at each other, realizing that Kai's actions had saved not only the hall's systems, but also the dignity of the council itself. After the session, Kai was escorted to a private chamber near the hall. It was a room reserved for engineers and technicians, equipped with tools, screens, and devices of every kind. He sat down at a console, studying the network logs. Even though the immediate crisis was over, he could not ignore the deeper questions. Why had the Queen's voice caused such disruption? Could this happen again? And most importantly, how could humans prove themselves further to the Confederation? As he worked, a delegation of alien engineers entered the room. Their leader, a stern-looking being named Thalix, spoke first. "Human," he said carefully, "we did not expect one of your kind to solve the problem. Your courage is noteworthy." Kai looked up, offering a polite nod. "I just did what needed to be done. The systems were misaligned. I corrected them." Thalix studied him closely. "It is more than correction. You acted when fear paralyzed others. That is rare, even among the most experienced of us." Kai shrugged modestly. "Maybe humans think differently. When I see a problem, I try to solve it rather than wait." Thalix's glowing eyes narrowed in thought. "Different thinking, that may be valuable. Perhaps your species has potential beyond what we imagined." Kai returned to his screens. He was already analyzing the hall's systems for future improvements. Humans were not only capable of courage, they could also anticipate problems, innovate, and adapt. In this room, far from the grandeur of the council, he felt the quiet satisfaction of knowing that human ingenuity had been recognized, if not fully understood, by some of the most advanced beings in the galaxy. Meanwhile, rumors of Kai's actions spread quickly through the council. Some delegates approached him hesitantly, offering questions and praise. Others merely observed from a distance, unsure how to interact with a human. One of them, a small, insectoid diplomat named Zira, floated closer. Her voice was quick and melodic. "How did you know what to do? We have trained for centuries in these systems, yet you corrected them in minutes." Kai smiled politely. "I guess humans see things differently. I try to think about how the system works as a whole, not just the parts." Zira tilted her head, studying him. "Perhaps your species is underestimated for a reason. You do not follow expectations, you create solutions." Kai nodded, quietly feeling the truth of her words. Being human meant taking risks, thinking creatively, and daring to act when others hesitated. The council hall had tested him, and he had succeeded, but he knew this was only the beginning. If humans wanted to claim a place among the stars, they would have to continue proving themselves in ways no one else expected. Later, as Kai returned to his quarters, he noticed the sheer scale of the city outside. Celerin Prime was unlike any world he had seen. Towers stretched into the clouds, floating platforms hovered over the streets, and ships of all shapes and sizes flew between planets like a swarm of stars. Humans had never lived among such advanced technology before, but he felt a sense of belonging. Not because he was superior, but because humans could adapt. Where others saw impossible complexity, he saw challenges to overcome. That night, Kai reviewed the hall's energy schematics once more. Small irregularities still lingered in the network. They were minor, but he could feel their potential for disruption. Unlike most delegates, he did not fear them. He saw opportunity, an opportunity to improve, to innovate, and to demonstrate human capability further. The next day, Kai returned to the council hall for the continuation of the session. This time, delegates watched him with cautious respect. Some gave him subtle nods, while others simply observed, silently acknowledging that this human was no ordinary engineer. The alien queen herself was present, her glowing eyes scanning the chamber with the same authority as before. Yet this time, there was no anger or accusation in her voice, only anticipation. As discussions began on interstellar trade and defense strategies, Kai noticed subtle signs of tension among the delegates. Some species were concerned about human participation, worried that their unpredictability might disrupt established protocols. Others whispered that humans' problem-solving skills could be invaluable in crises beyond their understanding. Kai listened, but remained focused on the technology around him. The hall's systems were vast, intricate, and still imperfect. Every meeting presented an opportunity to learn, to understand, and to refine the network. During a break in the council, Kai was approached by a senior engineer from the Queen's personal staff, a being named Krill. Krill's appearance was unusual, half crystalline, half organic, with facets that reflected light like a prism. "Human," Krill said, voice calm and measured, "you have impressed not only us but also the Queen. She wishes to understand more about your methods. Your species' approach to problem-solving is unlike anything we have recorded." Kai felt a mix of pride and humility. "I just try to think clearly and act when necessary," he said. "Humans are not perfect, but we do try to solve problems rather than fear them." Krill nodded. "It is precisely this attitude that sets you apart. The Confederation has many brilliant minds, yet few possess the courage and creativity you displayed. The Queen believes your perspective could be invaluable in future projects." Kai realized that this was more than personal recognition. It was an acknowledgement that humans had a place among the most advanced beings in the galaxy. Their courage, ingenuity, and adaptability could shape interstellar events in ways others could not imagine. As the council resumed, Kai returned to his station, quietly observing the proceedings while making mental notes for improvements. He understood that the future would test humans again, perhaps even in ways far greater than a single hall tremor. But he also knew that humans had something unique, a willingness to act, to innovate, and to challenge expectations. That willingness could make the difference between disaster and triumph. By the end of the day, whispers of Kai's achievement had spread throughout the Confederation's city. Humans were no longer seen as a minor species. They were recognized, cautiously, as beings capable of extraordinary courage and intellect. For Kai, it was a quiet victory, a first step toward a future where humans would be counted among the titans of the galaxy. As he left the hall and looked out at the endless expanse of stars, Kai felt a deep sense of purpose. The universe was vast, full of challenges, mysteries, and dangers, but also opportunities. And humans, small and seemingly ordinary, had the potential to rise to meet them all. In the silence of the night, with the lights of Celerin Prime twinkling below, Kai knew one thing clearly. Humanity had dared to step forward, and now the galaxy would watch what they could accomplish next. The council hall had returned to a calm state, but the tremors of the previous day still lingered in the minds of the delegates. Aliens of every shape and species moved with caution, whispering amongst themselves about the human who had dared to fix the Queen's voice. Kai, the young human engineer, had returned to his station early in the morning, examining the hall's systems with meticulous care. He knew that the Queen's voice had not just shaken walls. It had revealed a hidden problem, one that could affect the Confederation in ways no one had anticipated. The systems were vast and intricate. Conduits of energy intertwined with communication networks, resonance chambers, and translation nodes, creating a complex web of technology that connected every corner of the hall. Normally, the hall's advanced design could handle fluctuations in energy or the loudest voices without difficulty. But the alien Queen's voice was different. It carried a unique resonance, a combination of frequency and intensity that interacted strangely with the hall's ancient systems. Kai studied the holographic readings, noting irregular patterns in the energy flow. "The hall amplifies her voice," he muttered to himself, "but the amplification is unstable. If she raises her voice again, it could disrupt more than the council, maybe even the city outside." He was not wrong. Outside the council hall, the towers of Celerin Prime shimmered with energy, and the city's power grids hummed in harmony with the hall's systems. A disturbance inside the hall could ripple through the city like a wave. It was a risk that few delegates had even considered, yet Kai understood it immediately. Humans often saw connections others missed, and his mind worked quickly to anticipate potential consequences. Kai's concentration was interrupted by a sudden pulse of energy. The Queen's voice echoed faintly through the hall, though she was not speaking. The systems had not yet fully stabilized, and residual resonance caused the walls and floors to vibrate softly. Most delegates would have panicked, but Kai remained calm. He adjusted several conduits manually, routing the energy through stabilizers he had prepared the day before. Sparks flickered across the panels, but the pulse subsided within seconds. From his vantage point, Kai could see the alien queen approaching. She moved with grace, her enormous form gliding effortlessly through the hall. Her eyes, glowing with soft light, focused on him as she spoke, her voice calm but full of authority. "Human," she said, "your actions yesterday prevented disaster. Yet I sense you understand the hall better than most. Explain what you have discovered." Kai stood, straightening his uniform. "Your voice interacts with the hall's resonance system in ways that are unexpected. It amplifies certain frequencies which can overload the energy conduits. If not corrected, it could affect not only the hall but the city itself." The Queen's eyes widened slightly, though her expression remained composed. "And how did you learn this?" Kai smiled faintly. "By observing patterns and testing adjustments. Humans are used to finding solutions in real time. We notice problems others overlook." A murmur ran through the council as delegates listened. No one had expected a human to analyze the Queen's voice scientifically, to see its effect on the infrastructure, and to offer a solution. Most species relied on centuries of training and strict protocols. Humans relied on curiosity, observation, and intuition. The Queen nodded slowly. "Your insight is valuable. There are other systems, older and less understood, that could be affected by my voice. If you are willing, I want you to study them and ensure they are safe." Kai hesitated only for a moment. "I will do my best." Over the next few days, Kai moved through the halls of the council building, inspecting every conduit, chamber, and control node. Alien engineers accompanied him, skeptical at first, but gradually trusting his judgment. Kai had a calm authority, a quiet confidence that inspired others. He spoke clearly, gave precise instructions, and treated each system as a puzzle to solve. Even the most experienced engineers learned from him, adapting his methods and realizing that human ingenuity often brought solutions faster than traditional procedures. During one inspection, Kai discovered a hidden resonance chamber beneath the council hall. It was ancient, constructed long before the Confederation formed, and its purpose was poorly understood. The chamber hummed with energy, reacting unpredictably to the Queen's voice. Kai crouched near the control nodes, studying the readings. "This chamber could amplify her voice further," he explained to Thalix, the silver-scaled engineer who had assisted him before. "If she speaks at high intensity, it might affect not only the hall but also the city and neighboring districts. We need to dampen the resonance and reroute the energy safely." Thalix hesitated. "It is risky. The chamber is old, and tampering with it could cause unpredictable results." Kai's eyes met Thalix's. "Risk is part of problem-solving. If we do nothing, the consequences are worse. We can handle it carefully, step by step." Reluctantly, Thalix agreed, and together they began the delicate task of stabilizing the chamber. Kai adjusted energy conduits, placed damping nodes, and rerouted power flows. Each action required precision, and mistakes could have catastrophic effects. Yet Kai remained calm, focused on the patterns, listening to the hums, feeling the vibrations as if the chamber itself were speaking to him. Days passed, and slowly the hidden chamber was brought under control. Energy fluctuations diminished, the resonance became stable, and even the faintest pulse from the Queen's voice no longer threatened the hall. The council members watched in awe, realizing that humans were capable of handling technology and situations that even their most advanced species found intimidating. One evening, as Kai rested in his quarters, Krill, the crystalline alien, visited him. "You have done more than we expected," Krill said. "Not only have you stabilized the hall, but you have also uncovered weaknesses that could have caused serious disasters. The Queen wishes to meet you personally and discuss further responsibilities." Kai nodded thoughtfully. "I understand. I want to help ensure the safety of the Confederation, not just the Hall. The next day, Kai was escorted to a grand chamber deep within the council complex. The alien queen awaited him, her massive form standing beneath a dome of shimmering energy. She regarded him carefully, as if weighing every decision she had made to allow a human this level of responsibility. "Human," she said, her voice strong but measured, "you have shown skill, courage, and insight. Few species could have done what you did. Yet there is more to learn. The systems you stabilized are connected to other networks, including planetary defenses, communications, and energy grids across Celerin Prime. I am entrusting you to ensure these remain safe." Kai's heart pounded not with fear but with determination. "I will do my best," he said firmly. "I will study the networks, understand the resonance, and make sure nothing causes harm." The queen inclined her massive head slightly. "Your actions may save lives not just here but across the planet. This is a responsibility few can bear, but I sense you are capable." Kai left the chamber with a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity had shown courage once, but now it had a chance to demonstrate wisdom, patience, and foresight. The task ahead was immense, but he felt ready. He had already seen how humans could act under pressure, solve problems creatively, and inspire confidence in others. Now he would test those skills on a scale far greater than a single council hall. As he returned to his work, the city outside stretched endlessly under the twin suns. The towers of Celerin Prime shimmered with energy, ships moved through the skies like swarms of fireflies, and the hum of technology filled the air. Humans had entered a world of incredible complexity, yet Kai knew that this was where they could thrive. Complexity was not a threat to humans. It was an invitation to learn, adapt, and innovate. The following weeks were filled with rigorous work. Kai moved from chamber to chamber, inspecting networks, recalibrating systems, and ensuring that the Queen's voice could never again cause unintended disruption. Alien engineers assisted, gradually learning to adopt his methods of observation, pattern recognition, and step-by-step problem-solving. Many of them admitted quietly that human thinking was unlike anything they had experienced. Where others relied on centuries of rigid training, humans relied on intuition and adaptability, a combination that was proving invaluable. One evening, Kai noticed a subtle vibration in the planetary energy grid. It was small, almost imperceptible, but his human intuition recognized it as a sign of imbalance. He traced the anomaly through the city's conduits and discovered that the hidden chamber beneath the council hall had residual energy linking it to several key points in the city. If ignored, it could create widespread disruption during the next council session. Kai immediately began adjustments, carefully rerouting energy and installing additional damping nodes. Thalix and Krill assisted, but Kai directed the operation with calm authority. Sparks flew, systems flickered, and alarms chimed faintly, but the human remained composed. Step by step, the network stabilized and the vibrations subsided. When the Queen entered the hall that evening, she tested the system with her voice. It resonated beautifully, powerful yet controlled, with no danger of shaking walls or harming the city. She observed Kai closely, her glowing eyes reflecting respect and approval. "Human," she said softly, "your efforts have preserved not only this hall but also the city and its people. Few could have achieved what you have done." Kai bowed slightly. "I only did what needed to be done." The Queen inclined her massive head. "Humans are small in size, yet they possess qualities that can change worlds. Courage, ingenuity, adaptability, qualities your species demonstrates in abundance." As Kai returned to his quarters that night, he reflected on the journey so far. The Queen's voice had been a challenge, but it had also been an opportunity. Humanity had not only survived, but had proven its value among the most powerful beings in the galaxy. And yet, Kai knew that even greater challenges awaited. The universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of surprises. But he was ready. Humans had shown that they could act when others hesitated, think when others doubted, and solve problems that seemed impossible. The next tests would come, and humanity would face them head-on. Kai looked out at the stars beyond Celerin Prime, feeling a sense of purpose unlike anything he had known. The voice that had once shaken worlds now served as a reminder. Humans could rise to any challenge, and when they did, the universe would take notice. The tremors of the past were gone, but the impact of human courage and ingenuity would resonate far beyond the council hall. The days after stabilizing the council hall's resonance had been quiet, but the calm was deceptive. Kai, the young human engineer, had returned to his duties, inspecting the energy networks that connected Celerin Prime's towers, its city grids, and the council hall itself. What had seemed like a small tremor at first had revealed a hidden truth. The Queen's voice was not just powerful, it had the potential to affect the entire planet if the systems faltered again. One morning, while reviewing the city's energy logs, Kai noticed an anomaly. A distant sector of the city, responsible for managing the planetary shield generators, showed irregular pulses. They were subtle, almost imperceptible, but Kai's intuition told him that they could become dangerous. The planetary shields were the first line of defense against cosmic storms and attacks. Any instability could leave Celerin Prime vulnerable. Kai quickly alerted Thalix and Krill. "We have a problem in the shield network," he said. "It's linked to the resonance chambers under the council hall. If we don't act now, the next surge from the Queen's voice could trigger a chain reaction." Thalix's silver scales rippled nervously. "The shield systems are delicate. They have not been touched for centuries. Any direct interference, it could fail completely." Krill, the crystalline alien, added calmly, "And if it fails, the consequences could extend beyond Celerin Prime. Neighboring cities and colonies could be affected by energy feedback. This is serious." Kai nodded. "I understand the risks, but doing nothing is worse. We have to stabilize it manually." The team made their way to the Shield Control Center, a massive complex of spinning energy cores, conduits, and floating control nodes. The room hummed with power, the air vibrating from the energy running through its systems. Most alien engineers hesitated at the entrance. The energy was too strong, too unpredictable. But Kai stepped forward without fear, his human curiosity and courage guiding him. "This is nothing we can't solve," Kai said calmly. "Step by step, we can reroute the energy and stabilize the system." He moved to the main console, tracing conduits with precise movements. Sparks flew faintly as energy flows shifted, yet Kai's hands worked confidently. The alien engineers watched in awe. Humans had a reputation for boldness, but this was more than that. Kai's actions were deliberate, precise, and calm under pressure, a combination few species had ever witnessed firsthand. Suddenly, a massive pulse of energy surged through the conduits. Alarms blared, warning lights flashed, and the hum of the shields intensified. The room vibrated violently, and several engineers stumbled. Even the most experienced technicians looked alarmed. Kai, however, remained steady. He analyzed the surge instantly, recognizing patterns in the energy fluctuations that others could not. "It's a resonance feedback," he shouted over the alarms. "The Queen's voice is interacting with the shield generators." "If we don't redirect the energy, the cores could overload." Thalix hesitated. "It is too dangerous. We could be electrocuted or trapped in the system if it fails." Kai's eyes met Thalix's. "Sometimes the only way to solve a problem is to face it head-on. We cannot wait." With that, Kai began manually adjusting the conduits, rerouting energy flows with skill and precision. He instructed Thalix and Krill on what to stabilize, guiding their hands while keeping his own on the controls. The system trembled, almost resisting the adjustments, but Kai remained focused. Minutes stretched like hours. The room shook, sparks flew from misaligned conduits, and alarms screamed across the complex. Yet step by step, the energy flows began to stabilize. Kai's calm confidence guided the team, and slowly, the shields returned to steady hums, the vibrations lessening with every adjustment. Finally, the main core glowed steadily, the conduits aligned perfectly, and the alarms fell silent. The room was still, the energy hum now safe and stable. Engineers stared at Kai in astonishment. He had not only managed the dangerous system, but had done so with calm precision that no alien engineer could have achieved on their own. The Queen's voice echoed faintly through the hall as she arrived at the control center. "Human," she said, her tone measured but impressed, "you have faced a challenge that would have terrified most species, yet you have succeeded. How did you know what to do?" Kai wiped sweat from his brow. "I observed the patterns, predicted the interactions, and acted step by step. Humans are used to making quick decisions under pressure. We learn to trust our judgment and adapt as needed." The Queen's eyes glowed softly. "Indeed. Your species possesses qualities that are rare and valuable: courage, insight, and adaptability. Few could act so decisively in the face of uncertainty." Even Thalix and Krill, who had assisted Kai, nodded in agreement. The humans' actions had saved not just the shield network, but potentially the entire city. The next day, Kai was summoned to the council hall again. The Queen had called a special session to acknowledge his work and discuss further challenges. Delegates gathered, some curious, some skeptical, all watching the young human with a mixture of awe and uncertainty. "You have stabilized the hall and the planetary shields," the Queen announced. "Yet our systems are vast, interconnected, and ancient. There are risks beyond your current knowledge. Human, will you accept the responsibility to ensure the safety of all connected networks?" Kai's heart raced, not from fear, but from the thrill of the challenge. "I will," he said firmly. "I will study the systems, predict risks, and stabilize them wherever necessary." The Queen inclined her massive head. "Then you shall have access to all resources. You will work alongside our best engineers, and your methods will be observed and recorded for future use." Kai left the session with a renewed sense of purpose. Humanity had proven itself once, but now the stakes were higher. The systems he was to manage were not just technological, they were lifelines for entire populations. One mistake could be catastrophic, yet Kai knew that humans had a unique ability to face the impossible. Over the following weeks, Kai traveled through multiple control centers, inspecting networks that linked energy systems, communications, planetary defenses, and the council hall itself. He encountered problems that had stumped alien engineers for decades: hidden feedback loops, unstable energy conduits, and resonance chambers that reacted unpredictably to sound and vibration. Each challenge required precise thinking, courage, and innovation. Kai worked tirelessly, using both human intuition and careful analysis. He created new stabilization protocols, installed damping nodes, and rerouted energy flows in ways that even the most advanced alien engineers had not considered. During one particularly dangerous operation, Kai discovered a secondary resonance chamber beneath the city's energy core. It had been dormant for centuries, but was now reacting to vibrations from the Queen's voice and the city's energy fluctuations. If it activated fully, it could disrupt the entire planetary energy grid. Kai knew this would be dangerous. The chamber was massive, filled with flowing energy that could trap or harm anyone inside. Most engineers would have waited for permission or reinforcement, but Kai did not hesitate. "We stabilize it now," he told Thalix and Krill. "We cannot risk delay." Together, the three approached the chamber. Energy pulsed violently around them, lights flickered, and alarms echoed in the distance. Kai guided the team with calm authority, adjusting conduits, placing damping nodes, and monitoring energy patterns. Sparks flew and the room shook, but step by step, the chamber stabilized. When the energy flows aligned perfectly, the hum of the chamber softened. The lights glowed steadily and the alarms fell silent. Kai stepped back, breathing deeply, his hands shaking slightly from the intensity of the operation. The alien engineers stared in awe. "You have done what few could even imagine attempting," Thalix said. Krill added, "Your species' courage and ingenuity are remarkable. Humans think differently, and it has saved us more than once." The Queen arrived moments later, her massive form casting a shadow across the chamber. "Human," she said, voice calm but filled with authority, "you have faced impossible odds and succeeded. Your actions have preserved the city, the council hall, and the planetary systems." "Few could achieve what you have done," Kai bowed slightly. "I only did what needed to be done. Humans act when others hesitate, and we trust in our ability to find solutions." The Queen studied him for a long moment. "Indeed. Your species may be small, but it is capable of great courage. You have proven that daring the impossible is sometimes the only path to survival and success." That night, Kai returned to his quarters, exhausted but satisfied. Humanity had faced fear, uncertainty, and immense challenges, and had prevailed. He knew that even greater tests awaited. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers, mysteries, and opportunities, yet he felt ready. Humans had shown that they could act decisively, think creatively, and inspire confidence in others. As he gazed out at the glittering towers of Celerin Prime and the stars beyond, Kai realized a truth that would guide him through the challenges ahead. Courage, ingenuity, and adaptability were the keys to survival and greatness. Humanity had faced the impossible and succeeded. And this was only the beginning. The council hall had never been quieter. Even after the previous tremors, the day's events, and the countless adjustments, the delegates now sat in a tense but focused silence. Kai, the human engineer who had become the center of attention, stood near the main hub, watching the holographic displays flicker softly. Today was different. Today, the alien queen had called a full council meeting to address not just the hall, but the entire Confederation's future. Kai's mind was calm, but his senses were alert. Over the past weeks, he had stabilized the hall, the planetary shields, and even the hidden resonance chambers that threatened Celerin Prime. Yet today, he faced the greatest challenge of all, coordinating an operation that would involve multiple cities, interconnected planetary systems, and a network of alien engineers who were still skeptical of human methods. The Queen arrived first, her massive form entering the hall with the grace and authority that had always inspired awe. Her glowing eyes scanned the room, lingering on Kai for a moment longer than on anyone else. The delegates whispered, their voices carried instantly by the hall systems. Some were curious, some cautious, and some openly doubted the capabilities of a human. The Queen's voice echoed, steady and commanding. Today, we face a challenge that affects not just Celerin Prime, but the entire Confederation. A cosmic storm approaches, capable of disrupting planetary shields and energy networks across multiple systems. All available engineers and resources are required. Human, you will lead the operation. The hall fell silent. Humans were small in number, new to the Confederation, and yet here one of them was tasked with coordinating a multi-system defense. Some delegates exchanged nervous glances, unsure how a human could manage such a vast operation. Kai stepped forward. "We will work together," he said calmly. "Step by step, we will analyze the networks, predict the risks, and stabilize the shields. We can do this." A ripple of whispers passed through the room. Humans had acted bravely before, but now Kai's leadership would be tested on a scale far beyond a single hall or city. Delegates slowly began to nod, trusting his calm authority and methodical approach. The operation began immediately. Kai divided the engineers into teams, assigning each group to specific planetary systems. Holographic maps floated above the central hub, displaying energy flows, shield strengths, and potential points of failure. Every system was linked, and even a minor miscalculation could trigger a cascading failure. Kai moved quickly from station to station, checking readings, guiding engineers, and making real-time adjustments. His methods were unusual to the aliens. Rather than following rigid protocols, he observed patterns, predicted interactions, and adapted solutions on the spot. It was risky, but effective. At one point, a massive surge occurred in the network connecting Celerin Prime to a nearby colony. The shields flickered, energy conduits overloaded, and alarms blared. Many alien engineers froze, unsure how to respond. Kai did not hesitate. "Redirect the flow to the secondary conduits," he shouted, pointing at the holographic displays. "Dampen the resonance nodes in sequence and coordinate with the planetary shields. Step by step, we stabilize it." The engineers followed his instructions, and slowly the energy surged into stable paths. The shields stabilized, the alarms ceased, and the network hummed steadily. Delegates looked on in awe, realizing that Kai's calm authority had prevented disaster. Over the next hours, the cosmic storm grew closer. Its massive energy waves threatened planetary grids across multiple systems. Kai coordinated engineers on distant planets through holographic links, predicting how the storm would interact with each network. His ability to anticipate problems and adapt solutions in real time kept the systems stable, even as the storm's energy increased. Despite the immense pressure, Kai remained focused. He encouraged his teams, guided alien engineers who doubted human methods, and adjusted the networks with precision. Where others would have panicked, he saw patterns, opportunities, and solutions. The Queen observed from the council hall, her glowing eyes fixed on Kai's actions. "Human," she said softly to her advisors, "he faces challenges that would overwhelm even the most experienced engineers. Yet he remains calm, precise, and fearless. His species possesses qualities that are rare and invaluable." Thalix and Krill worked tirelessly alongside Kai, their confidence in his leadership growing with every successful adjustment. Engineers who had once doubted humans now followed his instructions without hesitation. It was not arrogance that guided Kai. It was skill, courage, and a methodical mind that inspired trust. As the storm reached its peak, energy surges tested the networks to their limits. Conduits flickered, shields wavered, and systems threatened to overload. Yet Kai remained steady, his eyes scanning data, his hands moving with precision. "Dampen nodes 3, 5, and 7 simultaneously," he commanded. "Synchronize planetary shields with the Council Hall conduits, step by step." Minutes passed like hours. The storm's power pressed against every shield, every conduit, and every planetary system. Delegates and engineers held their breath. Even the Queen seemed tense, watching the human lead an operation that could determine the fate of countless lives. Then slowly the network stabilized. The energy surges were absorbed, the shields held firm, and the cosmic storm passed without causing damage. The hall erupted in cheers, the engineers celebrating their success, while delegates looked on in astonishment. Kai, exhausted but focused, allowed himself a small smile. The operation had succeeded, and humanity had once again proven its worth. He had not acted alone, alien engineers had followed his guidance, but it was human courage, adaptability, and problem-solving that had saved the day. The Queen approached him, her massive form casting a shadow across the hall. "Human," she said, her voice filled with calm authority, "you have faced a challenge that threatened entire worlds. You have led with courage, insight, and wisdom. Few species could have achieved what you have done." Kai bowed slightly. "I only did what needed to be done. Humans act when others hesitate, and we trust our ability to solve problems." The Queen studied him for a long moment. "Indeed, your species may be small in number, but it is capable of great courage and ingenuity. Today, humans have proven their value not just in this hall, but across the Confederation. You have earned a place among its most respected beings." Delegates whispered among themselves, no longer doubting humanity. Humans had acted decisively, solved complex problems, and led interstellar engineers to success. Kai had shown that courage, creativity, and adaptability were qualities that could not be measured by size, experience, or species alone. In the days that followed, humanity's reputation grew. Kai's methods were studied, recorded, and adapted by alien engineers. Humans were no longer seen as untested newcomers. They were innovators, problem solvers, and leaders capable of facing challenges that others avoided. Kai returned to his quarters one evening, looking out over the glittering towers of Celerin Prime. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the city, a reminder of the vastness of the universe and the challenges that lay ahead. Humans had proven their worth, but this was only the beginning. There were countless mysteries, dangers, and opportunities waiting among the stars, yet Kai felt a quiet confidence. Humans had faced fear, uncertainty, and impossible odds, and had prevailed. Courage, ingenuity, and determination were qualities that set them apart. The universe would continue to test humanity, but now all of the Confederation knew humans would not back down. The alien queen's voice echoed once more through the council hall, but this time it was calm, powerful, and safe. She spoke of unity, cooperation, and the strength found in diversity. And at the center of it all, Kai stood quietly, a human who had dared to act when no one else could. The hall, the city, and the planetary systems were safe. Humanity had proven its worth. And somewhere deep in the vast expanse of stars, Kai knew that this was only the first of many moments where human courage and ingenuity would shape the fate of the galaxy. The Confederation had learned a powerful truth. The smallest species could make the greatest difference. And as long as humans dared to act, there was no limit to what they could achieve. Kai looked out at the stars one last time that evening, feeling a deep sense of pride, not in himself alone, but in the potential of his species. Humans were small, young, and unpredictable. Yet they were capable of facing impossible odds, solving problems no one else could, and inspiring confidence in the most advanced beings in the galaxy. As the stars shone brightly above Celerin Prime, Kai whispered quietly to himself, "This is only the beginning." And in the hearts of the Confederation's citizens, humans had become a symbol of hope, courage, and ingenuity, proof that even the smallest beings could change the fate of worlds.